Okay, welcome everyone. Good afternoon, or I guess good noon if you're on Central Time. I'm Jake Glavin. I am the Executive Director of MTERA, the Midwest Tribal Energy Resources Association. I have the honor and pleasure of supporting MTERA and working with this wonderful group of smart, energetic, and just fun people to work with. And you're going to hear from some of them today, and you've heard from some of them over the past few days here. So as you've probably heard throughout the week, MTERA is really all about bringing together Midwest tribes and really tribes nationally to talk about energy and really empower tribes to manage their energy resources. The fuel for our organization, it's our board members, it's our tribes. And this panel is about hearing from our board members and their respective tribes. What's going on? What's working, what's not working. You're going to see some of the information sharing that we have each and every month in our board meetings. I do kind of want to just pull up a quick slide here that you've seen earlier in the week, but this is really about, again, unlocking the benefits of both the sovereignty of our individual member tribes and the collective strength of all of them in the Midwest. This panel, you're going to hear from individual tribes. This is kind of the left circle here. Our next panel is about our collective action projects, where we think there are really opportunities regionally to work together and get some of those benefits of economies of scale, get a larger seat at the table, and really benefit from regional collaboration. So without further ado, I'm going to quickly introduce our panelists. We have Kevin Blaser, board member from the Saginaw Chippewa Tribe of Michigan. He's going to speak first. We have Brandy Toft, MTERA board member from Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe. We have Mike Troge, board member from the Oneida Nation, and Bruno Zagar, board member from the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa. Quick reminder, we want to hear from you. We want this to be interactive, so please post chatter in the chat box. But if you have a specific question for one of our panelists, click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and direct your question to the panel, and we'll get to it at the end of this session. So first, we will be hearing from Kevin Blaser. Kevin is part of Migizi Economic Development Company of the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe of Michigan. He's the business growth and development specialist responsible for really all things energy at the tribe. He's in charge of managing the electricity needs for tribal operations and the non-tribal commercial and industrial tenants located on tribal trust lands. He was instrumental in creating Tribal Ordinance 35, which established the Tribal Electric Authority. Migizi's primary driver of economic development strategy really is the ability to source low-cost wholesale energy, which is what Kevin will be talking about today. He works with companies interested in onshoring their operations or forming joint ventures with Migizi's SBA certified 8A entity. Also involved with deal sourcing, due diligence, strategic analysis of startup and venture capital investments, as well as non-gaming mergers and acquisition activities at Migizi. Even when he types his bio, it's a little bit long, but he is a great guy. He is smart. And Kevin, I'm going to pass it to you now. Tell us about what's happening at Saginaw Chippewa.
Thanks, Jake. The tribe a number of years ago started a project that was an expansion of their casino in another one of the communities, the Saginaw area. And part of that casino expansion involved a hotel. So the increase, and this is a relatively rural area, and the increase in load for those two components of the project was going to tax the existing distribution system. So the utility wanted to, have the tribe pay for kind of network upgrades so it could support that load. And tribal council decided that it would be better if they owned the equipment, and some of the staff started looking into ways of wholesale, capturing some of the wholesale market opportunities. So to that end, the tribe owns and built its own substation that's connected to the bulk power system that's part of the MISO region, which is the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, handles 15 states in the Midwest, plus some of Manitoba. And we're able to participate in those wholesale markets and acquire energy significantly cheaper. We don't have all the distribution assets to support, so our distribution system is to the 7 or 8 buildings that are within kind of that campus area, along with the casino and the hotel. And that's allowed us to not just save cost, but also to use that as a driver of economic development. So we can attract commercial and industrial tenants onto tribal trust land. We can deliver them in power in, at a more economic rate, along with water and sewer from some of the other utilities that the tribe owns. And that unlocks a lot of opportunities. So your ability to diversify the tribal GDP away from gaming and entertainment, while it's clearly a very important component to generating revenue, also broadens that out and attenuates some of the volatility. So one of the ways that we're looking at, kind of expanding in this economic development area is stored energy is becoming bigger. Pairing it with solar has some advantages, but there's a number of opportunities for MISO market participants to capture different revenue streams from these stored energy assets. And that is, kind of the business plan that we're working on building. Stored energy requires smaller amount of space, so you don't need thousands of acres in order to get a couple 100 megawatts of generation. You can work with solar developers, so you can focus the capital on the most efficient areas for generating revenue for the tribe, as opposed to just putting a bunch of solar panels in a field that has a longer payback time. Let somebody else handle that, and then we can monetize the energy that's produced. Also, with the tribe's 8A status, we can sell power as a certified SBA entity. So when working with large corporations with federal contracting have to purchase some quantity of goods from small entities, and having the ability to deliver power that is renewable, slightly lower than their incumbent utility, and they get to check off the box of purchasing from small businesses, we should have an advantage selling into that power space. And we can only do that because we're part of MISO. We've got some assets. We're operating as kind of a generator light model, but then our ability to go in and be competitive and take advantage of the tribe's sovereignty, its ability to source all of this power, and its ability to deliver these things economically to whatever customers it looks at. The other thing we're working on is ways that the tribe can monetize the inexpensive power itself. So not only are we looking at attracting commercial tenants for the leasing and the power sales, but we're also looking at ways that we can use this inexpensive power to drive other businesses that the tribe owns outright. And one of those ways is, data center operations, not just owning the data center and selling commodity space and power, but also what cloud services can be developed, how can the tribe do those things, and how can it deliver those essentially globally, because you can have these assets in one location and then deliver all these services globally. So these are some of the things that we've been able to work on and really develop after tribal council decided to build the infrastructure, put these pieces in place, and then it's our job as staff to try to figure out how we can monetize these and generate revenue, as opposed to just lowering expenses and making some of the gaming operations more efficiently. So those are just kind of two of the major initiatives that we've done after putting in the electric distribution and substation built. And yeah, that was less than 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Kevin. That is a first, but really interested in everything you're doing. You're, as far as we know, the first tribe in MISO to take that major step of forming a tribe utility. We'll absolutely be getting back to you with some Q&A at the end of this. And just a quick reminder to all of our attendees, if you do have questions, click the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to ask Kevin questions about what they're doing at Saginaw, Chippewa with their tribal utility. So next up, we have Brandy. So Brandy, while I'm introducing you, if you could start sharing your screen so we can get that ready to go. Brandy is the chairwoman of MTERA and serves as Leech Lake's Environmental Deputy Director. Prior to her current role at Leech Lake, she served as the Air Quality Specialist, building the tribe's air program since 2001. She has been involved in a little bit of everything. So this list is about 10 pages long, everything from a 200 kW low income solar array, 23 solar furnace installations, a $3.6 million energy efficiency project through the Guaranteed Energy Savings Program, an EV charging network, sustainable policies, Minnesota's Green Step Tribal Nations Program, a climate adaptation vulnerability assessment. She's also actively involved at the local, state, and federal levels, as well as commenting on permits affecting the tribe and Indian country as a whole. So Brandy, without further ado, tell us and the audience what is happening at the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe. And thank you for joining.
No, thank you. Like Kevin, they allowed me to talk today, so I'm excited. I get to use my hands. So thank you, Brandy Toft. Again, many of you know me on the webinar here, but this is Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe, and our path to sustainability. It's a long path, but it's one. And I just want to point out, these are our new monument signs, you know, like welcome to the state of Minnesota. This is our new signs there. Also something that I got to do and lead a project on, but they're very impressive and out there. Leech Lake's energy profile is really complex. We have over 82 tribal government buildings. We are served by 5 separate, unique utilities. 2 of them investor-owned and 3 of them cooperative, and all 5 of them have different rules or interpretations on whatever, if the sky is blue. It's amazing. We have $1.75 million annual electrical costs. We're hoping to bring that down. And we have an average electric rate of about 8.3 cents, but that's really skewed because the casinos get a pretty good rate because of their rate structure. So really, we're a little more for the average residential and even average community center. And Leech Lake's about the size of Rhode Island. So our drive to energy, our drive to sustainability, we've been working on it for quite a while. And I want to point out here, I have a link to a YouTube video we did in 2019. And it kind of lays out the things I talk about below here. We really strive to be good stewards. We're recognizing that we need to return to those roots of being good stewards, being good leaders and advancing leadership in Indian country. But not only that, locally, regionally, and nationally, we need to re-engage the area. Just because we're rural doesn't mean we can't do energy efficiencies and energy profiles. And reliability. With 5 utilities, there's a lot of end of lines on the reservation. And with extreme events, we've had a couple of years where we've had a lot of blowdowns, large events like that, cold, hot, we're having issues. And so we want to have more reliability. We want to also have self-reliance. And we want more control because remember, I said the casinos really skew that number. And one of our utilities is over 14 cents per kilowatt. And sustainability overall, sustainability can be so much, but in this, we want to be cleaner, smarter users of electricity, of energy in general. And we really want to promote workforce and economic development. We don't want people to think that we're being good stewards and we're not doing anything. Oh, we're doing stuff. We're just doing it in a good way to create jobs, but also create sustainability. And so thanks, Jake, for kind of throwing this together for me. This is from one of our reports, and it kind of shows a timeline of what we've done. And I want to point out near the left side there, you got 2003 to 2016. We had a big stretch where, you know, I started in 2001, and I've always had this sustainability or green aspect to myself. And so we started doing things, wind feasibility, solar furnaces. We started the green team, you know, we started installing stuff and it was slow. And then we started picking up momentum, especially with, going through this tool of Green Step Nations program and installing our groundbreaking first in Indian country 200 kilowatt solar garden for low income energy assistance. It's really a cool program. And we picked up more momentum talking with Minnesota's Department of Commerce and working on a guaranteed energy savings project that was just under $4 million in 22 buildings. And it's going to save us up to about $260,000 per year in energy savings. Those are the big things. That was Leech Lake's first big step into this, and it succeeded. And everybody talks on how successful it was. We also did a solar master plan for 350 spots, or it's a 350-page document covering all the buildings on the reservation. And that was really great. We also did a climate risk assessment. And you can see we go on and on. But I'm going to highlight in 2020, we didn't stop because of COVID. We didn't stop because of things were working from home. We continued on with a build solar ready policy. We got an EV readiness policy. And we have a net zero policy, but I don't call it net zero. I call it approaching net zero. Because when you're in rural Minnesota or rural Indian country, you're not going to get perfectly zero, but can you approach it? That's the way we look at it. And also we applied for a DOE grant that we're hoping to hear from. And then in 2021 and 2020, we did an EV build out. We are the largest EV hub charging location in northern Minnesota. And we're doing natural gas studies, propane studies, electrical strategic studies, and we're starting on a climate adaptation plan in May. So this goes on to talk a little bit more about this, but this is a word schematic from something that we did with Leech Lake staff on what we wanted to do, why we want to do this stuff. So I'll just let you look at those words, but sovereignty is the one that screams at you, right? Sovereignty, self-reliance. That's why we want to look at doing this. And again, here, a lot of things what I talked about, we just, I can't talk about it, but we got a grant for EVs that I can't talk about yet, but it'll be like really huge and expanding. It's really cool. Some of the stuff I already talked about, but the utility studies are really important because we're finding out what we don't know. And we're finding out too with the strategic energy planning that tribes have so much sovereignty that we're not exerting and that we don't know about. So this is really, really informing the tribe on how to better plan and exert that sovereignty for tribes and for tribal members. And this year I'm promised a sustainability coordinator so I can have a little more breathing room. Whoop. Sorry. There we go. And then this one is our strategic energy planning. And it's just kind of a little schematic that we convene the stakeholders, we're defining the vision and goals, we prioritize the actions, and right now we're in that development plan stage. So we're getting the final reports, we're developing that plan, and then we take that action from that plan. We move forward on it. But what this is a living document. Because you go down, you monitor, you look at it, you see how you're attaining things, and you go back and you start the process over again. That this is definitely a living process for us. Not so much a document, but a process. So why am I part of MTERA and why am I chair? Well, because I'm chair is because I'm a glutton for punishment. But other than that, MTERA, we joined not the initial flux, but the second flux, I want to say, Leech Lake joined. We really are getting a lot out of it. Like we're getting energy data tracking software with WeGoWise. We're looking at our guests, our measurement and verification for our guest buildings. We receive funding for our natural gas and propane strategic planning process. That's been fantastic and so eye-opening for us. But all that aside, that's great. What's been most important to us is that tribal network is working together with other tribes, similar projects, similar expertise, or even specific expertise, like the gentleman right before. He's done this tribal utility. And so I know I can call him up and say, hey, what's going on with this? How do I go about this? Or what's my second step? With the trials and tribulations support and guidance, so important to be engaged in and share and learn from other tribes. And so that, I hope, was under 10 minutes. I'd like to be with Kevin and say I did a good job, but we'll see. And I love chickens and I love chicken things. So there you go. Don't be fearful of change.
Thank you very much, Brandy. And we did get a question for you about solar furnaces. We will address that at the end of the presentations. We also got a comment in the chat about the YouTube link that you had in there. If you could try to post that in the chat box during the next presentations, that would be wonderful.
I will do that.
Thank you. So next up, Mike, while I'm introducing you, can you pull up your slides? So Mike Troge has been employed with Oneida Nation for 25 years as an environmental project manager. His roles include watershed manager, conservation specialist, project designer, energy planner, solar projects coordinator, and hemp program manager. Currently, he works as an energy consultant with the tribe. Mike has been in various roles with the Midwest Tribal Energy Resources Association, MTERA, since its start in 2014. Currently, he is vice chair and board member representing Oneida Nation. Thank you, Mike, for joining. Tell our audience what is happening at Oneida Nation.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jake, and it's a pleasure. You can see my slides okay. It's been a pleasure working with MTERA. It's been a pleasure putting this conference together. I went through a lot of those thank yous on day one, but certainly Jake and MJ Anderson and Jody Jean Amble have been very instrumental in putting this conference together. My thanks goes to them very much, as well as all the participants and speakers who have attended. It's been a great experience putting this virtual conference together, and I hope you come away with something that is valuable for you. Mike Troge, Oneida Nation. I'm an energy consultant currently with them. I'm a board member with Midwest Tribal Energy Resource Association through Oneida Nation. I'm happy to say that I'm actually one of the founding members of MTERA, and I'm so pleased with how MTERA has progressed in since the beginning in 2014, Jake. Anyways, as a matter of fact, Bruno from Fond du Lac and Brian Van Stippen from once worked for Ho Chunk approached me, and we started talking about this concept, and we had a meeting or two, and this MTERA concept kind of came out of that, and I was very pleased to have 4 members be a part of it in the beginning, and now we're up to 13. So and that's since 2014. So again, we're gaining some speed, and I hope other tribes are taking us seriously and really looking at the conference and the kind of activities that we're trying to achieve, and we'll really consider being a part of our organization. Before I get into the meat of the subject, I just want to point out a couple of other presentations that I've or events that I've been involved with. Shifting Season Summit. That's part of the Northeast Indigenous Climate Resilience Network. That was actually last week, but I wanted to make people aware of this organization. I think they're really doing a fine job helping tribes with their adaptation and resilience in the face of climate change, and really using indigenous knowledge, coupled with science to help tribes come up with that plan. Sarah Smith is the contact for that organization. Coming up, May 24, 27, Michigan Climate and Clean Energy Summit. That looks to be a very interesting summit as well. I will be making plans to attend that. Dr. Maria Schaefer is one of the organizers there. So want to start out not necessarily with Oneida specifically, but some of the things that MTERA is trying to achieve, and I think are very important. We talk about energy sovereignty, and we really wonder what that means. From my standpoint, it's I think it's very clear that we're all very dependent. We're very dependent users of energy, and it's very simple to turn on a switch and turn on a light and really not know where that energy comes from. Very kind of similar to people not knowing where their food comes from. I think that kind of is across the border when it comes to, or across the spectrum when it comes to various items that we take advantage of all the time. Energy is one. So this is a typical framework of how the energy is organized here in the U.S. And tribes are really merely a customer in the very end, and we're trying to change that. We've just finished a strategic plan. I think our last one was in 2017. We've been able to put together a strategic plan based on a need from our Department of Energy grant, who's been very, very helpful. They are one of the very we're able to successfully win an Intertribal Energy Network grant through DOE, or Office of Indian Energy, back in 2016. And one of those requirements is that we put a sustainability plan. So how is MTERA going to remain active once the grant is gone, and how are we going to engage with tribes and provide services and that kind of stuff? And I think we have a really good strategy on paper right now, and I think we're really going to work it and be able to really do some good things here in the coming years with our member tribes. Let's see. And I think this is generally the vision that we're looking at. MTERA is an organization that we're trying to get rid of that linear thinking, and we're trying to encourage tribes to be able to get a good handle of their own activities from an energy standpoint, be able to work with their tribal members and their government departments and their casinos, build that tribal energy plan, and then just keep working it over and over again. Try to support that tribal vision, and come up with what some people call independence. I'll call it interdependence, because independence is a difficult thing to achieve. We can come close to it, very much like net zero, but I think interdependence supports that collective vision as well, where we are working together, tribe with tribe, and being able to come up with those unique or innovative ways to help us support our energy, where we get our energy, how we use our energy, and how we produce our energy as well. So if you're on board with these types of activities, I hope that you are able to join MTERA with their mission. And their mission is to essentially help tribes manage their energy resources through collective action. Collective action is a very important term to help us achieve interdependence. Wine energy plan. Brandy went through some of these types of issues as well. We think about energy sovereignty and what that really means, but there are the philosophical reasons of being energy sovereign, and there are the money reasons for being energy sovereign as well, or what are we trying to achieve in the long run? And getting rid of that dependence attitude, I think, is something that we really want to promote. And I think that can apply not just to tribes, but to communities in general. Trying to be more local in flavor in how we produce our energy and how we use our energy, and being more responsible, and being that steward that we hear about a lot. but certainly, these are things that we've been working with the Office of Energy Innovation. They've changed their names a few times, but that's the State Energy Program. With emergency preparedness, helping with microgrid planning and that kind of stuff. Being able to help stabilize costs with our own local energy projects as well. So, if any of these types of things appeal to your tribe and you can add to this list as well, certainly MTERA is here to help you. Again, Brandy had something similar. This is something adopted from Department of Energy and National Renewable Energy Laboratory as far as convening our stakeholders, forming that leadership team, that energy vision, energy needs, et cetera, et cetera. Just go around the circle, and it is a living document. Oneida created their first energy security plan back in 2008, and just a couple years ago we went through the process a second time with the help of DOE, NREL, and MTERA, and now we're developing our next generation of strategic energy plan. So those are things that we're trying to really promote here in Oneida, and MTERA has certainly been a great help in that type of in that work. Renewable portfolio standard has been something that has been mentioned throughout the week in a couple of presentations here and there. This is just an example of what it might look like for Oneida. We did our energy audits and basically found out where all of our energy is being used. We're at about 412 million BTUs, and this is a little dated. This particular slide is from 2011, but how much those numbers change, they fluctuate from year to year, but it's not too far off. Certainly all the electricity and all the fuel that we use, coming up with that total and then trying to figure out what's going to be our RPS that is going to support that our goals in the end. And this is essentially an example for you to take a look at and see if there's something that you can do with your own tribe in that situation. Oneida has been involved with a lot of different projects. Certainly energy efficiency is something that we're trying to promote. Oneida is big into agriculture, and one of the ideas that we're trying to look at is to determine is there an energy crop idea out there that we might be able to look at. And switchgrass is something that has been on people's minds here in the years past, and being able to grow acres of switchgrass and being able to put that into a fuel form that is usable for burning or whatever, maybe that's something that we can take a look at. Solar hot water, solar electric. We've done a wind study here as well. We don't have the best wind, so we have to look a little elsewhere for other ideas, but you want to be able to assess all of your resources. We've been successful with solar hot water and PV. This is our elder care center with 48 collectors, solar hot water, and 160 kilowatts of PV. And it was a great project. The solar hot water went up with the construction of the building. It tied right in with all the other utilities in the building, and it worked out quite well. We can't forget about the teams that the on the boots people that are helping us put these things together. Not only the people in the offices that are helping with the plans and the organizations that are assisting the tribes with that work, but the people on the ground that are helping putting these projects together. Want to certainly acknowledge their help with this stuff. So that's my take, and I'll look forward to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Very impressive stuff going on at Oneida Nation. Bruno, you are next up. I'm going to pull up your slides here. So Bruno Zagar is another founding member of MTERA. He is a master builder and environmental specialist and energy projects manager for the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa. As I mentioned, he is a founding member of MTERA, but also Heating the Midwest. He has served as chairman and board member for both organizations. He's done so much for Fond du Lac's energy program, including leading their 1 megawatt solar project. He's drafted energy specifications, energy codes, and building plans for the Fond du Lac Band, Oneida Nation, Menominee Nation, and the state of Wisconsin. He's won numerous awards, really has a great presence at MTERA's monthly board meetings. And I just personally think he's just a great example of sharing lessons learned and being really passionate for tribal energy. So with that, Bruno, I'm going to pass it over to you and get your slides up here. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake. And Mike, thanks for the picture of the 12 kilowatt system there. I worked with Mike on installing that years ago when he changed out the inverters since I left, and the 4 of the 5 inverters were still running from years ago. 18 years they ran before he
Great
switched
project, Bruno.
Yeah, really great project. The Fond du Lac Band, Lake Spirit Chippewa, is pleased to present its energy vision and profile in some of the projects and energy efficiency, renewable energy. If you can go ahead and move on to the next slide, please, Jake. You can see what our energy vision is. It's really pretty interesting as you move along, and everybody, you've seen their energy strategic energy plan and energy visions. When you apply for any grants, you have to have a strategic energy plan. So you can download an example from DOE's website. You can call any of us to have help in drafting that, reviewing it. You really need to look personally at what you have in your region. We have biomass, a lot of trees in our region, so we're utilizing that along with solar. We have several different other initiatives, which we'll review in the next slides. You can go to the next slide, please, Jake. These are, we started off, when I started here, I came from Oneida, 2002, was there about 10 years and worked with Mike and a lot of the initiatives there. And when I first came here, we started looking at what can we do with housing, because I worked as a project manager with housing new development and developed specifications for energy efficient housing. When we built homes that would be considered a zero net energy home today, all you needed to do was add a little solar to it. But those homes heated for 1 fuel tank. That was for the whole winter in Wisconsin's climate. So that gives you an idea of how energy efficient thermal breaks, insulated walls, 50% of the windows south, 20% east west, 10% north. So we built really good specifications, and the HUD package landed up becoming so energy efficient, became the Energy Star program for the state and energy code. So all this can be done very easily in any part of the country. Over here, we built 25 energy efficient homes. Wayne Dupuis was the housing manager at the time when I first came, and we talked a little bit, and we developed specifications and worked with Minnesota Power and modeled the homes and did energy audits and improved as we built them. And same here, we built energy efficient homes. Then we partnered with Minnesota Power to do energy audits. We adopted the International Energy Efficiency Code and moved into designing a lead resource management building. We actually used the rebate from the utility to pay for a design competition to build the resource management building, design and build it. So that building was the first lead building in the county, in Carleton County. And it was a nice project. You'll see pictures of that. And different projects from the Resco, $4.7 million project on energy efficiency, which paid for itself in 6 years. And all the other projects as we go along here. If you could move down in slides, we'll show the projects. Hey, this is a boiler with Woodmaster, 1.7 million BTU boiler. And we heat the community center with waste wood. We had started in waste wood analysis with Fond du Lac and Itasca College. We worked with University of Minnesota. We worked with the Indian Energy Office, DEMD. We worked with a lot of different partners on analyzing wood and how it was handled, how it was dried, and how it was utilized. And we designed a system, was the first of its kind in the country and the first of it in the world to be tied into a LiDAR sensor. If you can go to the next slide, you'll see the top loader system. Right there is a top loader system. It's a Javo top loader from Holland, the Netherlands. And it has a LiDAR sensor right in the middle on the carriage that is above it. Just like your bumper, which has a proximity sensor to cars in front of you. It measures the load, turns the fans on and off for the system, dries the wood chips, bring in waste wood at $20 a ton. We save $22,000 a year in propane. And we're designing this for Brookston Community Center also in 54 homes. So it's a great utilization of waste wood in our region. And the drying accomplishes several things: less pollution, better utilization, the boiler lasts longer, less pollution. So it's a win-win-win. You can't lose with drying and using a local wood fuel. Plus it keeps money in the community and jobs, local jobs. Next slide, please. We started working on the solar project back in 2014. I received a phone call from EPA offering a couple $1 million towards a renewable energy project. So we analyzed wind, and we didn't have control of the power lines, and we could only get like 2.5 cents for a wind project. We looked at where our load was. So 60% of our load was at the Black Bear Casino Resort. And we looked at the utility, looked at the offset and how we could bring that into the casino, and then worked with Minnesota Power. We worked with National Renewable Energy Laboratory and Fond du Lac's engineers, and sat down and designed a system. And we actually started the first of its kind for the inverters, and this utilization of code in the Midwest. It was done in Hawaii and down in California, but nobody had done it up here for utilizing smart technology code in inverters. Go ahead, next slide, please, Jake. Yeah, this is just a profile of how much utilization of the solar is on our, it's about 10% right now. The solar is part of our total electrical use. Next slide, please. And this is some of our residential installs, our residential solar. This is the water heater on the right. It's our first electric DC hot water heating system. In the past, I've done solar thermal systems they were all AC elements in the units, and this is a direct DC unit with a backup AC. Go to the next slide. And these are residential systems. Go to the next slide, Jake. And these are, if you're on the left and right, are both residential systems. They're a bunch of 3K systems that we put on residential homes. And we have one that's a water heating system. That's just a 1.5 kW system. And this is a solar hot air system. We put 7 of them up and on residential homes. But we found the analysis, once we got done with the BTU analysis, that southern facing windows is very similar to this. You gain a little bit because of the active fan, but the actual, when you get done looking at all the energy analysis, not that much of a huge gain. You can put in windows and less maintenance, less operation issues in housing, because you're dealing with rentals and homeowners and going in again and fixing it. By the time you get out with your labor and everything, you're pretty similar to putting a south side window into your house. Next slide, please. Just another residential. Both Steve and I went to a training at NREL and over in Denver and over in Golden on operation and maintenance program on the right there. I'm on the roof. And go to the next slide, please. This is the resource management building, and there's light tubes that light the upper floor. The passive solar lighting to the south, EV system on the roof, the 12K system. Worked with Mike LeBeau to put that up. And if you go to the next slide, please. This is the Noresco project and the amount of savings in that project. As you can see, it's substantial amount of savings. And next slide. This just totals your savings, 772,000 a year. And it breaks it out as to what percentage of. And if you look at the building automation systems, that's, and talk about fight with everybody in the staff and you name it. A lot of issues with training, bring everybody up to speed, and I shouldn't have to learn this new stuff. So now we have BOC training, building operator certification training for our staff, and we have 12 people certified. And there's not too much arguing anymore as to the savings. We have to tell people to close doors once in a while and things like that, but that's about it. It's coming along it's coming along quite a ways since we first started this. Next slide. Yeah, and these are the challenges in our climate zone. December and January, not too much solar. A lot of biomass, we can utilize that for heating, luckily. But we look at our profiles on what we can produce and what we can save. And it's usually bigger on savings than it is on production right now, but we're working on the production. Next slide. This is the inverters. We've had some issues with ABB inverters. We probably wouldn't use them again. And they sold their liability to another company, but we're still working with them on a maintenance and operation with Hunt Electric. So it's still moving along, and the production is still real good with the system. Because of Steve Douglas and I, and Steve's an electrical engineer, we work together. Next slide, please. And this is where we're at with our carbon reduction. We are at 50% reduction in fossil fuel use. Just last year, we reached that. And after data analysis with the National Engine Carbon Coalition, we sequester about 50% of our carbon dioxide. So we're at about 80 to 81% reduction in CO2. Within the next 10 years, Fond du Lac will be carbon neutral. And last slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. And thank you to all of our panelists. I would now like to ask all of our panelists to unmute and turn on your cameras. I'm going to switch views here. To our audience, remember, if you have any questions for our panelists, please type them into the Q&A. We do have 3 questions that came in, and I'll just go right down the list. So the first one is for Brandy. Can you please talk a little bit about solar furnaces?
So Jake, I'm going to share my screen because I have something that I think is better for a visual. So you can see this, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this is what they are. They're like big windows. And I like what Bruno said, that, you know, he didn't find them very effective. We are on the other side of that. We found them very effective, and that we may not have done the energy engineering on them like Bruno, because he is an engineer. We just went by what the tribal members were saying and rave reviews on them. And we've had very little maintenance or issues with them, as long as you change the filters, just like you change the filters on your furnace. So this is just kind of a layout of what they look like. They're made in Minnesota by a tribal nation. Well, actually a nation cooperative. And the next slide I want to show you is how they set up. So they go vertically, not at an angle, and they have a simple self-contained duct system that this would go into, like, say, the living room, your warm air outlet would be, and then your return air is right next to the fan area, which is usually inline fan and controlled by a thermostat. And you have to have these on a southern wall within 15 degrees of south. And it collects both the sun radiation and also the albedo radiation, which is just the reflection of the sun off the snow. So they're quite effective, 61% efficiency. And they take only about $8 per year to operate with that small fan. The only problem I've ever had with them is people calling me up and saying, hey, it's not working. And I'm like, well, it's at night. The sun isn't shining. And or when it's a really cloudy week. But people love, at least at Leech Lake, they love their solar furnaces. So I hope, Jerry, that helps answer your question there.
And Jerry also asked about solar hot water systems. Would you be willing to share some of your data on solar water performance? For example, how well does it heat the water during February?
We do not have any solar hot water systems, but Bruno, don't you?
No,
Oneida. So I think Mike.
Oneida
Okay, great.
and Boys Fort, he's their
Boys Fort.
administration building.
Okay.
Yeah, we can compile some of that stuff. We actually have our 48 collector system on an online monitoring platform through Solar Wave, and they've been performing well for us. We've calculated that they're providing a 50% plus of the hot water needs for the facility, so that works out well. I can try and pull up some of that data and post it on our website or something like that if you want. We've had a little less success for residential scale solar hot water. Those are harder systems to maintain from a standpoint, and that's one of the reasons we did transition to a facility work, because there are people there to help maintain that equipment and so on. If not all residential owners are technically capable and are able to do their own maintenance, and sometimes it can be hard to find a contractor that's able to provide that stuff as well. So you just got to be kind of strategic on how you apply some of your resources.
And Mike, do you know what type of solar hot water technology you're using? Specifically, are you using evacuated solar tubes?
No, they're flat plate panels, 4x10 panels, 48 collectors.
Is that a drain down system, Mike?
It is a drain down system.
Yeah, we used to have problems with, when I was in Oneida, we started the first solar lease program with Wisconsin Public Service and Richard Lane. And Mike was part of that education program. We had a trailer that we hauled around for education, installed a lot of residential systems, but they thermal locked. The pumps would have issues because of thermal locking, and solar panels to run the pumps. And without you have so many myriad of things that can go wrong between glycol and the homeowner doesn't maintain them. They don't know what to do. So it's difficult to do it residentially, as we found out. Right, Mike?
Yeah. So again, just be wary of that. Make sure that the homeowner, and I think Bruno did a good educational program to help homeowners with that. With the new equipment and what needs to happen, that kind of stuff. Not all of them follow through, but just be wary of the idea that if you're applying a new technology that is of little, with people that have little knowledge about that technology, just make sure that they're up to speed on it.
Residentially, I would put PV panels up and put it in an element DC right into the water heater. No glycol to deal with, no issues with thermal locking, all the way around, easier project.
Or just an interconnected PV system in general.
Yep.
So related to that, Bruno, can you explain the difference between the intelligent inverters you're using and how they're more beneficial than the standard inverters, and some of the interconnection challenges you've had with Minnesota Power?
We had to add 8 more inverters. We originally had 30 inverters on the megawatt we designed to be installed north of Black Bear. So we had to add 8 more inverters. And the problem with integrating into a grid system is the type of power that feeds into it. And actually, when we designed this system, as Kevin knows, you put in for your MISO permit and they analyze what you're doing, and then you get a report back saying everything you designed and did is wrong. Well, after we installed this system, a week later, 2 weeks later, I was sent a report saying not only is everything I did right, but it's a better system than Minnesota Power is putting on the grid as far as their power goes from their coal plants. So it's how it's designed. NRail helped us. Steve Douglas is the electrical engineer. So if there's details you want on that, email it to me and I'll get it to Steve and he'll send it to you. I'm a civil engineer, not a electrical engineer. So if you want expertise on that, just send me your questions. I'll send them to Steve and he'll email you back. Kevin might be able to answer that better than me.
I'm an economist. I have nothing to do with the design.
Yes.
All my graphs go up
See what
and
I
to
mean?
the right.
We're generalists. Everybody that's on. Jake is the most.
Well, I do think, I mean, to your point, I think one of the great things about MTERA is that we actually have a very diverse group of folks within our respective member tribes in terms of background and skill sets. So, I mean, we have everything from technical experts. We have Kevin with his finance and economics background. We have, environmentalist backgrounds. We have an energy attorney. So really internally, we do have these really good conversations on a monthly basis, touching on all these technical, economic, legal, regulatory questions that we're seeing here today. So we have 3 minutes left. Brandy, can you talk about how the 200 kW solar project that Leech Lake installed was funded?
Yep. Hey, John. We can definitely talk about this offline too, if that works and you want more information. But essentially, we worked with a nonprofit, Rural Renewable Energy Alliance, and they were the driving force on getting all the funding together. Essentially, it was a hodgepodge of money put together because we had a lot of training, as you can see. Well, you can't see, but I have a picture in front of me of all kinds of trainees from the tribal college, information based, but it was really state legislative monies and then a bunch of foundations and other small grants put together to do this project. And it really was a first in the nation and advanced. Now I believe there's 3 or 4 more projects like this.
Brandy, quick question. What is the status of the Solar Garden program in Minnesota now? Are they still active, or are they done taking applications or any of that stuff?
We do it a little different. We don't do it as applications or you sign up to be a part of it. We actually just use those meters that the solar gardens attached to and pass through that money straight to the energy assistance program or the tribal heating assistance program. And then we are able to assist up to additional 100 underserved or additional families with that. And this year we made about $23,000 to add to that fund. So there's no exact one. It just goes to the energy assistance program.
Great. Next question from Pete. How many MTERA members have started their own tribal utility? What is the barrier to starting your own utility? I'll quickly state, I think Saginaw Chippewa is the only MTERA member that is up and running right now, but that is not to say that other member tribes are interested in this and evaluating this. I'll pass it to Bruno, Mike, Brandy, and Kevin. What are the barriers that you see for planning and forming and managing a tribal utility, really?
We started 14 years ago, went to Navajo Tribal Utility, went to Ave Utility, Fort Mojave, and looked at all of what they were doing at the time, and actually hired Walter Wolf, Navajo's attorney, and Walter Haas to come and present to everybody at Fond du Lac, and they drafted our first charter. It took until just last year, we were ready. Council approved it. Friday, we have a meeting for the draft charter documents. So we're finishing it this year. We will have a tribal utility.
That's awesome to hear. I also want to respect that you may not want to go all the way to a full tribal utility, but the way to understand it and how it's set up and what sovereignty you hold as a tribal nation is more important almost to understand how you can still work within the system currently or manipulate the system for the betterment of the tribe. So don't be afraid of doing this and you're like, oh, well, if I got to start here, I'm going all the way to where Kevin's at. Well, we're not all economists and everything like that. So just understanding that middle ground will give you so much perspective.
And for us, I mean, I think it was 7 months total. So we wrote the document, we wrote the ordinance internally on what we wanted to do and what we wanted to control after some input from tribal council. Put the document together. It went through the legal review process, and then tribal council voted on it and became an ordinance within the tribe. So it's really bespoke to how you want to create it and what the tribe wants to do and control, and then, you know, putting that all together. So, you know, the ordinance 35 is available off the SAG-CHIP website. I think it's under courts. Look there, or if you want to email me and I can send out a copy of it. But it was relatively painless. You know, it was just a lot of the waiting for the internal legal team to review it, go through all that, make sure it fit in with all the other ordinances. I mean, so there was some structural work to do, but from our standpoint on the utility side, we wrote what we wanted to do and sent it off, and tribal council agreed, and with some changes and input, and then they approved it, and we're moving forward.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you to our panelists. We're 2 minutes over now, so I do have to close it up. For those of you in the audience, our next session is on our MTERA collective action projects. That starts at 1:15 Central Time. Go back to the event hub located at the MTERA conference website. Hope to see you there, and thanks again to our panelists.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.